March 1st, 2016. The air is crisp around a sprawling, immaculate estate near Chantilly, France. The Aga Khan, the 82-year-old billionaire spiritual leader of the Ismaili Muslims, is attending to his beloved horses. The sky is an indifferent gray. The world feels normal, safe. It feels shielded by the kind of security and protocol that billions of euros afford. Then, the telephone rings. An aide picks it up. The voice on the other end is brisk. It is professional. It radiates the quiet, terrifying urgency of state power. It is a request for a private audience. The man calling claims to be a direct representative of Jean-Yves Le Drian, the French Minister of Defense. The matter? Highly classified. National security. Life or death. The trap is set. The curtain rises. A Skype video call is arranged. The Aga Khan sits before a monitor in his private quarters. The screen flickers. It is struggling through a purposefully degraded broadband connection. The pixels resolve, and there he is, the Minister of Defense. He sits behind a massive, polished mahogany desk. The French tricolor flag hangs perfectly still over his left shoulder. The flag of the European Union hangs over his right. A framed portrait of the President of the Republic, François Hollande, watches solemnly from the wall behind him. The minister leans into the camera. The lighting in the room is incredibly poor. Deep shadows obscure the fine details of his face, but the broad strokes are undeniable. The receding hairline, the heavy jaw, the dark, impeccably tailored suit. It is Jean-Yves Le Drian. He speaks. The audio is fuzzy. It is laced with digital static, but the message cuts through the noise like a scalpel. French journalists are being held hostage by Islamist extremists in the Middle East. The terrorists are demanding a ransom. But France has a strict, unyielding public policy. The state does not negotiate with terrorists. The state does not pay ransoms. Therefore, the minister explains they need private help. They need patriots. They need discreet, off-the-books capital to secure the release of innocent lives. The funds must be untraceable. They must be wired immediately to secure bank accounts in Poland and China. Once the hostages are safe, the French government will quietly reimburse the money. The Aga Khan listens. He is a man accustomed to the heavy burdens of global leadership. He understands the dark shadows where geopolitics operates. He believes he is doing the right thing. He authorizes 5 separate wire transfers. 20 million euros vanish into the digital ether. The hostage crisis, pure theater. The secret mission, a ghost story. The man on the screen, a phantom. He is not the Minister of Defense. He is an actor wearing a custom-poured, hyper-realistic silicone mask. The connection terminates. The screen goes black. The money is gone. This was the illusion. Understanding how an $80 million fiction is written, produced, and executed requires an understanding of the director. We must dissect the architecture of a con artist. The mastermind is Gilbert Chikli. He is 54 years old, Franco-Israeli, born in the working-class neighborhood of Belleville, Paris. He carries himself with the swagger of a man who believes he has hacked the source code of human nature. He is not a street thug with a crowbar. He is an engineer of human vulnerability. Rewind to the early 2000s. Chikli is already a legend in the Parisian underworld. He is widely considered the pioneer of the fake CEO scam. He builds a criminal empire without firing a single shot. His weapon of choice is a telephone. He calls mid-level corporate employees, posing as the president or CEO of their company. He uses the exact same psychological cocktail every single time. High authority, extreme urgency, total isolation. He tells them this is a secret mission. He tells them not to alert their manager. He says they are reporting directly to him to root out terrorist funding hidden within the company. He sweet-talks them. He bullies them. He manipulates these employees into emptying corporate coffers. The employees are blinded by the thrill of being chosen for a clandestine operation by the big boss. They wire millions of euros to offshore shell companies. In one infamous instance, a bank manager literally hands over a suitcase full of cash in the restroom of a Parisian cafe. Chikli is brilliant, but brilliance leaves a trail. It is 2009. Sensing the French authorities closing in, he flees. He hops a flight and disappears into the sun-drenched sanctuary of Ashdod, Israel. Because he holds dual citizenship, he is safe from extradition. He lives openly. He buys a sprawling mansion. He marries a young woman named Shirley. He lives the life of an exiled king. He even gives television interviews. When asked about his crimes, he does not show a single ounce of remorse. He calls it a game. He compares himself to a famous actor. He smirks at the camera and says, "You either have the gift or you do not." In 2015, the French courts convict him in absentia. They sentence him to 7 years in prison. They hand down a €1 million fine. They order him to pay €5,500,000 in damages to his victims. But from his mansion in Israel, Chikli simply laughs. The audacity is so captivating that a movie is even made about his life. It is titled, "I Am Counting on You." But the applause is never enough for a born performer. The fake CEO scam is becoming played out. The banks are catching on. Security protocols are changing. Chikli needs a new act. He needs to raise the stakes. He reasons that if you can pretend to be a corporate CEO, why not a government minister? The transition is audacious. It is the leap from local community theater to Broadway. The year is 2015. France is gripped by profound tension. Terrorism is a daily headline. The Middle East is a powder keg. Kidnappings are a terrifying, visceral reality. Who is the man standing at the absolute center of this geopolitical storm? Jean-Yves Le Drian, the Minister of Defense. He is a senior ally of President Emmanuel Macron. He is the stoic face of French military resilience. Chikli and his primary associate, a 35-year-old named Anthony Lasarevich, begin to draft the script. The preparation is meticulous. It is forensic. They study Le Drian's mannerisms. They study his bureaucratic vocabulary. But voice alone is not enough for this level of extortion. They need a visual anchor. They contact an underground artisan. They commission a bespoke, high-grade silicone mask modeled directly on the facial structure of the minister. Next, they build a stage. They rent an unremarkable room and transform it into a high-fidelity replica of a French ministerial office. They acquire the heavy wooden desk. They source the exact dimensions of the French flag and the European Union flag. They hang the official portrait of the president. They are not just building a set. They are building a psychological Skinner box. The mechanics of the heist operate with flawless, terrifying precision. The scam operates in 2 phases, the primer and the hook. Phase 1, the primer. An accomplice, playing the role of a senior aide, makes the initial phone call. They do not target everyday citizens. They target the absolute apex of global society. The targets include the owners of elite vineyards, archbishops, foreign prime ministers, and billionaires. The aide speaks in hushed, urgent tones. They establish the premise, the hostages, the absolute secrecy, the desperate need for a direct line to the minister. This call primes the target's brain. It establishes the reality of the crisis before any visual evidence is even presented. The mind begins to construct the narrative. Phase 2, the hook, the Skype call. The camera clicks on. The lighting is deliberately subdued. The bandwidth is intentionally throttled to create digital artifacts and pixelation. This is not a technical mistake. It is a masterpiece of visual misdirection. Human beings are pattern recognition machines. When presented with a blurry image of a man sitting in an official office, flanked by the correct flags, the human brain automatically fills in the missing data. The target expects to see the Minister of Defense. Therefore, the target sees the Minister of Defense. The silicone mask does not have to be structurally perfect. It just has to be good enough to survive a low-resolution, 30-second encounter. The fake Le Drian speaks. The connection is terrible. He is sitting at a calculated distance from the camera. The audio crackles. He drops the payload. "I need your help. France needs your help. Wire the funds to China. Save these lives." Before the target's logical faculties can catch up, the call drops. The screen is black. The urgency is deafening. It works. It works terrifyingly well. The Aga Khan wires €20 million. The money hits accounts in Poland and China. The authorities manage to freeze a portion of it, but €7,100,000 instantly vanishes into the dark labyrinth of global money laundering. A few months later, the network targets Inan Karaç, one of the wealthiest business magnates in Turkey. The script is exactly the same. The hostages in Syria. The desperate plea for untraceable funds. Over the course of 3 agonizing weeks, Karaç sits at his computer and authorizes 9 separate wire transfers. The total is staggering, $47 million gone. Karine Mentzelopoulos, the esteemed owner of the legendary Chateau Margaux winery, watches the same blurry screen. She hears the same desperate plea. She wires €5 million. The money flows like a river. Over 150 elite targets are contacted. The scam touches embassies and governments in over 50 countries. They target the King of Belgium. They target the Prime Minister of Norway. They target the Director General of UNESCO. They even try to convince the Tunisian government to buy 4 Airbus Tigray attack helicopters for 19 million euros. It is an $80 million harvest. But arrogance is the ultimate tax on the successful criminal. When playing the game at this velocity, the margin for error shrinks to zero. The unraveling begins not with a brilliant police raid, but with a linguistic misstep. It is a single, microscopic flaw in the script. The fake Le Drian's aide secures a phone call with Macky Sall, the president of Senegal. The primer is set. The crisis is pitched. The fake Le Drian gets on the line to close the deal. But Macky Sall does not wire the money. Macky Sall listens. He narrows his eyes. And then he hangs up the phone. Why? Because Macky Sall knows the real Jean-Yves Le Drian. They are old friends. And in the French language, there is a distinct, unyielding boundary between the formal and the informal. The fake Le Drian, sticking rigidly to his script of state authority, addresses the president of Senegal, using the formal pronoun vous. The real Le Drian would never do that. The real Le Drian uses the familiar, intimate tu. In that single syllable, the illusion shatters. The president of Senegal contacts the real French authorities. The alarm bells begin to ring across international intelligence networks. Elsewhere in Paris, the scam hits another fatal snag. Sophie Grenier, the financial director of the French Chamber of Commerce and Industry, receives the pitch. She is methodical. She is entirely immune to the emotional manipulation. She asks for documentation. The scammers email her the forged ministerial letters. She reads them closely. Her eyes scan the text. There are spelling errors, sloppy, arrogant typos scattered right through the official letterhead. She does not wire the money. She calls the police. The authorities launch a massive, coordinated manhunt. Investigators pull the IP addresses from the emails and the Skype calls. The digital breadcrumbs lead straight across the Mediterranean. They lead directly to Israel. The noose is tightening. Chikli knows the heat is on, but he is a shark. If he stops swimming, he dies. He cannot stay in Ashdod forever. He needs to expand the operation. He needs new masks. He needs new targets. It is August 2017, Ukraine. Gilbert, Chikli, and Anthony Lasarevich are traveling. They are far from the protective sanctuary of Israel. They are moving through the former Soviet bloc, likely networking with the hackers and money launderers who facilitate the dark architecture of their financial network. But the French police, working in tandem with international intelligence, have been watching their every move. August 18, 2017. The trap snaps shut. Ukrainian authorities close in. Chikli and Lasarevich are arrested. The investigators seize their mobile phones. What they find inside the digital storage is chilling. It is the blueprint for the sequel. Scrolling through the photo gallery on Lazarevich's phone, detectives find high-resolution images of a brand-new silicone mask. The jowls are heavier. The hairline is distinctly different. It is the unmistakable visage of Prince Albert II of Monaco. The hostage crisis was over. The next act was going to be an impersonation of royalty. They were likely planning to target the hyper-wealthy denizens of the European tax haven, exploiting the prince's identity for a massive new wave of extortion. But the curtain has finally fallen. Chikli is thrown into a Ukrainian prison. He spends several brutal months behind bars in Kiev before the complex extradition treaties are ironed out. The French government is deeply embarrassed and absolutely furious at the breach of national security and the usurpation of their defense minister's identity. They demand his return. He is placed on a plane. He is flown back to Paris, the very city he fled a decade ago. February 2020, the trial begins. The courtroom in Paris is a theater of an entirely different kind. The global press is watching. 7 men are in the dock, but all eyes are fixed firmly on Gilbert Chikli. He is defiant. He sits in the defendant's box, sneering at the proceedings. He denies everything. His lawyers present a truly bizarre argument. They argue that the voice on the Skype calls is not his. They argue it is an artificial intelligence voice clone, a deep fake designed by unknown enemies to frame him. He claims he is the victim of imposters. It is a desperate, absurd defense. The ultimate con man is standing in a court of law, claiming he has been conned. The real Jean-Yves Le Drian, now serving as France's foreign minister, issues a scathing public statement. He is appalled. He is deeply offended that his name and the solemn duty of his office were weaponized to rob millions. The evidence against the network is overwhelming. The IP addresses, the thousands of digital footprints, the wire transfers mapping out across the globe, the audio recordings of the Skype calls perfectly matching Chikli's vocal print, the photos of the Prince Albert mask staring back from the confiscated phone. March 11, 2020. The judge strikes the gavel. The The verdict is guilty. The sentence is severe. Gilbert Chikli is sentenced to 11 years in a French prison. He is handed a €2 million fine. In September 2020, on appeal, the sentence is slightly reduced to 10 years, but the absolute finality of the message remains clear. Anthony Lasarevich is sentenced to 7 years and fined €1 million. 5 other accomplices receive sentences ranging from 15 months suspended to 5 years. The court orders the masterminds to pay tens of millions in damages to the Aga Khan and Inan Kirak. As the sentence is read aloud in the courtroom, Chikli's facade of cool, untouchable indifference shatters. The actor breaks character. He erupts in visceral rage. He gestures wildly from the dock, his face twisting in fury. "It is a scandal," he screams at the judge. "You should be ashamed." He is physically dragged away. The heavy iron doors slam shut. The lights come up. The show is over. In the silence of the aftermath, as the dust settles on the courtroom floor, the true nature of the crime becomes devastatingly clear. This was not a failure of technology. The banking systems worked exactly as they were designed to work. The wire transfers were executed flawlessly by the institutions. Skype transmitted the video exactly as it was captured by the lens. This was a catastrophic failure of the human operating system. Gilbert Chikli did not hack secure firewalls. He hacked empathy. He hacked authority. He understood a terrifying truth about human nature. People are desperate to believe a compelling story. They want to be the hero who saves the hostages in the dark of night. They want to be the trusted insider, chosen by the Minister of Defense for a mission of profound national importance. When fear, extreme urgency, and the intoxicating allure of exclusivity are introduced into the human mind, critical thinking evaporates. The intellect is entirely bypassed. The Aga Khan did not look at that blurry, stuttering screen and see a cheap silicone mask because he did not want to see a silicone mask. He wanted to see Jean-Yves Le Drian. People will sometimes believe what they are told, but they will never doubt what they conclude on their own. Chikli merely built the stage. The victims wrote their own tragedy. It is $80 million, stolen not with a loaded gun, but with a piece of molded rubber and a flickering webcam. It is a high-stakes illusion paid for in full by the world's elite. Today, the masks are locked away in an evidence room in Paris. The money is scattered in the wind, forever buried in the dark digital vaults of China and Poland. And Gilbert Chikli sits in a cold concrete cell. He is a master illusionist, finally trapped in the harsh, unyielding light of reality.